So hi guys, I'm Aditya Kumar. I'm a curriculum engineer at Masai school. So I teach advanced JS at Masai. So basically today we'll be learning basics of JS, like what is JS and what is programming is all about. So basically you might have heard about many programming languages, C, C++, Python and all those things. JS is exactly similar kind of thing. Okay. So just for an example, like to understand what is programming. So basically suppose you met a Chinese guy, okay, and you want to talk to him. Like basically you don't know Chinese, like how will you talk to him? So in the same manner your computer understand or your browser understand a particular kind of language, that is a machine language. So basically you need a medium kind of thing, like like interact with browser, your system. So basically this programming language are the kind of medium. Okay, these programming language are kind of like in like English and like spelling syntax is there. So basically you can understand. So what happens behind the scene, like it get converted into your machine language, that is a 0 1. That is, you might have heard about 0 1. 0 is like switch off, 1 is like switch on, like you can imagine your bulb like switch off switch on kind of thing. So this is converted to that kind of thing, and then your computer or your browser understand that thing and interpret that way. Once you design a like a web page, like basically your web page needs to understand like what needs to be done when I click something. Okay, when you click something, something opens, like how your browser know like what is opening and what to open. So behind that thing JavaScript works. So this is basically JavaScript is a scripting language, and it is used basically to design web pages also. If you might have heard about server, okay, where our data is stored, like the benefit of having JavaScript is that you can have your front end, that what you see, and you can also have your backend, like what you can't see but we interact kind of thing. Okay, so you don't have to learn multiple languages for that. You can design a web page, you can make it functional, you can store data, you can have your own server with just a single language, that is your JavaScript. Basically we have learned like we have known like what is JS, what is programming languages and all those things, how things work. Okay, so now we will be diving into the practical things, like coding part of things. So basically we'll not be covering like that much, but we'll be covering the basics of things. Okay, so remember your class like 10 or like 5th standard maths. Okay, so suppose you want to add something like a suppose there is a variable called a b, like 5 plus 5 equal to 10. So we'll be doing like how we can do this with the programming thing. Okay, so that a and b, that is called a variable. So in the same manner in JavaScript also we have something to declare a variable. Okay, like suppose if I write var a is equal to 10, that means this is a variable which has a value of 10, and also where this variable is stored, like it is stored in your system memory, like it takes some amount of memory, it is stored in your system memory. In a similar manner, like for different data there are different data structures, like different data types also. Like suppose if you want to type a name something, so for that thing also you need a variable. Maybe if I type like name, and if I type something like suppose Sunny, so that is a kind of name. So this number and this name is, there are two different data types. Like basically suppose this is a number, and whatever you type in a character or a word, that is called a string. Okay, so basically in the same fashion character also you can type like where c equal to whatever character, single character you can type. So basically in JavaScript, in other languages like string and character are two different entities, but in JavaScript these are both are like same. So suppose if I want to add two numbers, so I will have a variable a equal to 10, and also if I have a variable b equal to 5 or 6 maybe. So suppose simple thing, if you add 10 plus 6 it will be 16, but this 16 number should be stored somewhere. So in the similar fashion we have to declare another variable you can consider like a kind of container, like that stores something. So if I declare a variable c, and if I do like a plus b, so now what happens, like it operates from left, like right to left. So first it adds a plus b, and then it assigns this to the c. That means it stores the value to c. That means 10 plus 6 it will be 16. Now how to see the output, like we have added it, like how we can see that where it is stored, like basically. So in JavaScript we have something called console.log, and if I do C, in this manner you can print it. But now another question comes in, like how this thing is, where this console log came from. Like for understanding this thing, let's take an example of riding a cycle. Okay, so basically if you have a cycle, you cannot ride in your room or somewhere in your kitchen. So for that thing you have to go to your street or road or in a park. So in the same fashion, if you want to run a particular language, you need an environment that understands that language. So for that thing we have basically in JavaScript two things. Okay, first one is your browser, that is mostly used basically. Okay, but in the time of development when you are learning JavaScript, we have another environment called node. Okay, that comes as a kind of, you can say, a pre-written kind of things. Like console means I have to print something that is already written there in node. So if you write this console log C, that means it understood that I have to print something on a screen, and whatever value I have passed in that thing, that will go there. So this node version will run on your local system with your code editor, whatever code editor you are using, and even then you can use browser as well. But the difference is that for browser you must have a HTML page. Like without HTML page you cannot open anything in a browser, JavaScript. So basically we'll be using the local terminal first. So first thing first, in VS Code there is a terminal. If you just control and backtick, if you press, like it will open your terminal. Okay, so how to run this? There is a simple command like node, the environment in which we are running, and the file name main.js. Now it will give you the output like whatever we are printing. In the similar fashion, like if you want to print something, console.log, and if you want to print like hello world. So if I now again run the same command, so as you can see it prints 16 as well as hello world. Okay, so now the same thing we'll be using to develop. Now previously I told you that these things are used to develop web applications like websites. Okay, so now you might be wondering like how this I am writing a variable a equal to b, a equal to 10, b equal to 6, how this thing is used in like web pages. So basically the second part comes a function. Like basically in mathematics you might have heard function. Okay, like function a b, like you can write a sum function like sum a b, that gives you a result of a plus b. So in the similar fashion I told you like JavaScript pretty easy, like straightforward. The syntax is exactly the function type function. You have to name a function like sum. If I write sum, and whatever you want to like add, like suppose there is a variable called a b, that will vary, like whatever, suppose a kind of calculator. So I will pass this a and b here, and there are curly braces that declares that this is a block of code that relates to this function only. That means that closes things like a kind of gate. So now we have to give an output. So like returning something, we have a syntax called return. So if you return something, whatever we have to return, like some function is there, so a plus and b. Now in order to, in your simple mathematics, like you have learned, like to get the output you have to use that function. So what I will do, so this is returning something, so I have to store it somewhere. Like let's take another variable called d, like a kind of container. Now I will execute this function, use this, indirectly use this function. Now suppose I want a sum of like a 3 or 4, so I will pass 3 as a variable a and 4 as a variable b. Now this d we have already learned like how to console. Just do console.log and d. Now if you save it and run the command like node and the file name where your code is, it will give you the output like If I again want to change the variable, like suppose I change it to 4, 4, like a is also 4 and b is also 4. So if I run the command again, it will give me an output as 8. So basically, for like you might be like thinking we are hard coding it, like we are taking a variable called a equal to 4, b equal to 4, like, but in real world if you see applications like user input the data, like from where it comes basically. So that comes from your web page, that is your like front end, and that is your HTML page. So inside HTML, like we have to create HTML page and also just create 2 input boxes. Okay, I will show you how JavaScript is used to build web pages. So input boxes, suppose I want to add 2 numbers. Okay, so I will have to accept 2 numbers from the user. So first input box will accept a number that will be a type of number, and the second input box will accept another number that will be also a type number. So this I have created. Now to access this thing in JavaScript, we generally give ID, like suppose if you want to call a friend, you have the friend has some name. So similar manner in HTML also we have some name and like kind of ID. So give it an ID called A, and for another input box give it an ID called B. Now these things we have got, and also like in calculator, if you have seen, like after like typing A plus B, you press equal to sign, like to get the output. So in that manner you can create a button here, submit. So let's create a button, submit. Now if you open this HTML file in browser, it will be something. If I open it like in browser, it will be something like this. Okay, there will be 2 input boxes and a submit button. Consider it as a your calculator, like we input 2 numbers and I will press enter, like it will give me the output. So now how this HTML and this thing will be linked basically. So we have to link our JS file, whatever JS code we have written, to our HTML file using the script tag. So in script tag there is a source attribute that relates that which JS file we want to run on which HTML page. So I have put that address to that HTML file, that is your main.js. So if I want to add something, now on click of this button we want to execute a function, that is your sum function. So on click we have attribute called on click, and this sum function we want to execute. What this sum function will do, it will add the 2 numbers that has been inputted by the user and give you the output. So basically, so for getting this function, so we have to create another function like the same similar sum function, but here we will not be passing any parameters basically, because this thing we are accepting from the user. So for accepting from the user we have something called document.getElement. So if I create a variable again, so document is your HTML dot get element by ID, like whatever name we have given, consider as a get element by name. So the first ID was given A, and whatever he inputs there, I want the value. So if I get the value, in the similar fashion I will get the B value. Let B equal to document dot get element by ID, and it will be B, and the value will be there. So basically we got the 2 values. Now the same fashion that we all have already done, we have to add this value and return it. So just add this value, return A plus B. Now where you will see this, if I console this thing, if I save if I want to console this thing sum function, so this will not execute basically, because what happens if once you run the JavaScript, once you run the HTML file, the whole JavaScript will run one by one from line by line, from first line to the end line. So we cannot do like this. So instead of returning this thing, what we will be doing, we will be directly storing this thing here only. So let C is equal to A plus B, and we will be directly consoling this thing, console.log C. Now if you save it, go to your web page. Now if I enter 1 and in another input box, if I enter 5, so on click of submit button, nothing happens, like where I can see this output, like basically. So in your web page also there is also a console, like where you can see the output. If you inspect the page, open it, there are few options like elements, and the second option is your console. If you open the console, you can see 1, 5, 15. So basically the sum 1 plus 5 is not 15. So what happened basically? So whatever comes from the browser web page comes in the form of a string, like a character ABC kind of thing. So it acts like A plus B becomes AB, not A plus B. So basically before it comes as a string, that I have already told you that there are basically different data types. So it comes as a string and it concatenates both the strings, like basically. So if you want this as a number, so what you have to do, you have to convert this to a number. So for converting this to a number, we have a syntax, pretty simple syntax. Whenever you are getting the value, just add a plus sign in front of that. Whatever string it is getting, it will convert that string to a number. If I save it, now if I go to my browser, if I type like 3 and in another input box 6, and if I hit submit, it is giving me now 9. Initially it would have given me 36. Now it is converted to a number. Now the same thing happens, I am getting it in the browser, like in browser console. If I want to see it in the web page itself, so what will happen? So we have something, we can create another tag that will show me the result. So here also I have to give an ID, that a kind of name, like where we want to show the result. So what happens basically, if I save this thing, now instead of consoling this thing, what I will do, I will show this result to that div, to that tag, like whatever place you want to say, like save it, you can see that thing. So now the same thing happens. How to access that thing? Document dot get element by ID, that means get element by your whatever name you have given, whatever identification you have given, get it from that. So we have given him like result. Okay, so now dot, we want to set the value, like text inside, whatever look inside, whatever we will be seeing inside. So inner text will be whatever result we will be getting. Now if you save it, now if I like type 3 and 5, if I hit submit, I am getting the 8 in your browser, like a form of web page itself. So now using your HTML CSS, you can make a static page, like input boxes we have made like using HTML and buttons. But how this thing work, like we have given a brain kind of thing using JavaScript, like the simple code that we used to write, we have used that code to give a kind of brain to our web page. Like if I type 3 in one input box, if I type 5 in input box, if I hit submit, just add these two numbers and show me in the web page. So if I reload again, if I type 10, if I type again in another input box 10, the sum will be 20. If I hit submit, it will show me this 20 sum onto my web page itself. So this is how things work in JavaScript. Basically you can consider three components of a web page like HTML, CSS, JavaScript. So one simple example to understand what JavaScript is, like consider yourself, your body, like the skeleton is your like HTML, like nothing in your body, like only the bones. If the skin is added, muscles are added, that is your CSS, but your body will not function with that thing. You will be a dead body. But when you add your brain, your body will start functioning. In the same manner, if you have knowledge of HTML, CSS, you can make a web page, but that web page will not be functional. To add functionality to that web page, we use JavaScript. Basically, that we did right now. Just we made a simple calculator just with a simple, like I think 7 to 8 lines of code. So this is how things work. This was the basic introduction of JavaScript, like how things work and how like web pages are related to JavaScript and how you can put brain to your web pages. So this was the basic thing. So thank you guys, thank you, and good luck for your learning.